The predator that hunted suns met its end, inside a human trap. The Void Serpent had consumed 17 star systems before humanity even knew it existed. Admiral Chen Vasquez stood before the holographic display in the command center of Bastion Station, watching the latest telemetry data stream in from the outer rim. The creature, if something that vast could be called a creature, moved through space like a living shadow, its body stretching across astronomical units. It fed on stellar cores, wrapping itself around stars and draining them of their nuclear fire until they collapsed into lifeless husks. "Ma'am, we've confirmed the destruction of the Kepler 442 system," reported Lieutenant Commander Hayes, his voice tight with barely controlled fear. 3 billion colonists, gone in 18 hours. Chen's jaw clenched. The evacuation ships hadn't even cleared the system's edge before the Serpent struck. She had watched the feeds, the way space itself seemed to bend and writhe as the entity's impossible form coiled around the yellow dwarf star. Within hours, Kepler 442 had dimmed to a cold, dead ember. "Status report on the defense fleets?" Chen asked. "Admiral Kowalski's task force engaged the entity at Proxima Centauri," Hayes replied, his fingers dancing across his console. 17 dreadnoughts, full antimatter arsenal. Their weapons passed right through it like it wasn't even there. The Serpent didn't acknowledge their existence. Chen had seen the recordings. Humanity's most powerful warships firing everything. They had at the creature, their weapons simply phasing through its ethereal form. The Void Serpent existed partially outside normal space-time, making conventional warfare impossible. It was a predator that had evolved beyond physical constraints, a hunter of suns that had likely existed since the universe's infancy. "Ma'am," Dr. Reyes spoke up from her position at the science station, "I'm getting some interesting readings from the probe network we deployed along the entity's projected path." Chen turned to the astrophysicist. "Explain." "The Serpent isn't just feeding randomly. There's a pattern. It specifically targets G-type stars, stars like our sun. More importantly, it seems drawn to systems with high gravitational anomalies. Binary pulsars, black holes, neutron star clusters. You're saying it has preferences?" "I'm saying it might have weaknesses," Reyes said, her eyes bright with possibility. "Every predator does, even one that hunts suns." Chen studied the galactic map, noting the Serpent's trajectory. At its current pace, it would reach Sol system in approximately 6 months. Earth's sun would be just another meal for the cosmic. Horror and humanity would join the countless civilizations it had already devoured across the eons. "Doctor, you have something in mind?" Reyes nodded eagerly. "The Charybdis project, we've been using it to study exotic matter interactions near the galactic core. But if we could modify it, the Charybdis Array was humanity's most ambitious gravitational research station, positioned dangerously close to Sagittarius A, the supermassive black hole at the galaxy's center. It manipulated space-time itself, creating localized gravitational fields for scientific study. Chen had visited it once during her early career, a terrifying yet magnificent structure that seemed to dance with forces that could unmake reality. "You want to use Charybdis as bait," Chen realized. "More than bait," Reyes said. "A trap. If my calculations are correct, we can create a gravitational resonance pattern that will appear irresistible to the Serpent. When it approaches to investigate, we collapse the field. And we drag it into Sagittarius A. Even something that exists partially outside space-time can't escape a black hole's event horizon." The plan was audacious, unprecedented, and utterly insane. It would require redirecting the Serpent's path across half the galaxy, timing the gravitational pulse to perfection, and gambling the survival of human civilization on theoretical physics. Chen loved it. Within weeks, every available ship in the human fleet was en route to the galactic core. Engineers worked around the clock to modify the Charybdis Array, installing massive gravitational field generators salvaged from a dozen worlds. The entire scientific community collaborated on the project, sharing decades of research into exotic physics and space-time manipulation. The Void Serpent, meanwhile, continued its relentless advance toward human space, leaving a trail of dead stars in its wake. Dr. Reyes had been right about the creature's preferences. When the modified Charybdis array activated its gravitational beacon, the serpent's trajectory shifted immediately. Something in the artificial gravitational pattern called to it across the void. Perhaps it resembled the exotic matter signatures of its natural prey, or maybe it simply represented a more concentrated source of the energy it craved. The trap was subtle, elegant in its simplicity. The array created a series of gravitational pulses that led the serpent on a carefully calculated path, like breadcrumbs leading deeper into the galactic core's intense gravitational field. To the ancient predator, it must have seemed like the most appealing feast in cosmic history. Admiral Chen watched from the command ship Endeavour as the serpent approached the array. Even at this distance, its presence was overwhelming, a dark absence against the star field that hurt to look at. Directly, space itself seemed to recoil from its passage. Gravitational resonance at optimal frequency, reported the array's chief engineer. The entity is responding perfectly to the pattern. The serpent coiled around the Charybdis station like it had countless stars before, but this time, instead of feeding, it found itself caught. The moment its form made contact with the array's field generators, Dr. Reyes triggered the collapse protocol. Reality convulsed. The artificial gravitational fields inverted, creating a cascade effect that dragged both the array and the serpent toward the black hole's event horizon. The creature's otherworldly shriek echoed across subspace as it realized the trap, but it was too late. For the first time in its cosmic existence, the void serpent had encountered prey that fought back with intelligence rather than force. Chen watched through the quantum telescopes as the entity that had devoured 17 star systems was stretched and compressed by tidal forces beyond imagination. Even something that existed partially outside normal spacetime couldn't escape the fundamental laws of physics when caught in the grip of a black hole. The serpent's final moments were almost beautiful. Its impossible form stretched into luminous strands of exotic matter before disappearing beyond the event horizon forever. "Threat neutralized," Chen announced to the fleet, though her voice was quiet with awe. Humanity had faced extinction and responded not with panic or despair, but with ingenuity. They had studied their enemy, understood its nature, and used that knowledge to turn the galaxy's most dangerous predator into the prey. The void serpent had hunted suns for eons, but it had never encountered anything quite like human determination. In the aftermath, as the fleet prepared for the long journey home, Chen reflected on what they had accomplished. They hadn't defeated the serpent with superior firepower or advanced technology. They had won through patience, intelligence, and the very human ability to see opportunity in the face of impossible odds. Somewhere in the vast cosmos, there might be other predators, like the void serpent. But they would find, as their predecessor had, that humanity was no ordinary prey.